This is The Reconnected Woman, hosted by Talia Sky. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Reconnected Woman podcast. Today, I really want to dive into a bit more of a personal topic, and I want to dive into what I have been experiencing lately, because number one, I feel like when I share my truth, it opens up the invitation for people to kind of see themselves in that. And then number two, I think a lot of people can relate, and they have probably been experiencing something similar. And what I just want to open up about is the fact that I have been in a little bit of a funk. And when I say funk, I feel like energetically, I just haven't felt like myself. I have felt a little bit lost, a little bit confused. Just the way that I would describe it, if you guys know frequencies, is I've been in a low frequency. I haven't been my high vibe, creative, really excited self. And I just want you to know that that's okay. The way that I look at life is through seasons. And this is something that I'm very big on, especially in our cycles. I'm very big on our cycle being a season. So when I think of like the luteal phase or our menstrual phase, that's more like winter. When I think about my ovulation, that's more like summer. So I'm very in tune with my body there. But the reason this came up is because I was on a walk the other day. The sun was shining. I noticed that a lot of the leaves are starting to bloom and they're looking more vibrant and more beautiful than ever. And I really felt this in myself. I feel like I'm starting to get that spark back. I feel like I'm really blooming in my own way. And I'm like, fuck, like as humans, we do go through these seasons. And I think a lot of people make that wrong. But I've done this so many times that I'm kind of well equipped to understand the importance and the significance of these seasons. And I also know that these seasons have actually made me become the best me and have made me be able to go to that next level. And so I would say, probably the last 3 to 4 months have been kind of a bit more of a winter season, which obviously we have been in. And that's okay. I have had a lot of stillness. I have had more downtime. I have taken a step back from a few things and allowed myself the space to kind of feel and be. My favorite saying is we are human beings, not human doings. And a lot of the time people are just trying to do, and they're not allowing themselves to be. And often finding yourself and finding that spark again is through the stillness. Okay. It's through not distracting, because again, so many people are very disconnected from their body and why they are experiencing these things. I think a bit of my funk has also come from how much I've grown and evolved and changed. And a lot of things just haven't felt super aligned. If you followed me from back in the day, it was always about macros, the body, calories in versus calories out, the low calorie hacks. And I think a lot of people followed me for that. And now I'm on this other side where I really don't care about my body as much externally. I very much care about my body internally and taking care of myself. I haven't been on a fat loss phase in a very long time, and so I don't have that journey to share. I don't have a lot of change in my life in terms of like fitness. Everything just feels easy. Everything feels amazing. My relationship with food and my body is fantastic. And so again, I just felt like I haven't had a lot to talk about. And I've also felt very conflicted in who I am and what I do. And that's been a bit of a struggle too, because every time I say something, it's very contradicting to another thing that I say. When I say intuitive eating and freedom and how good it is, then I feel guilty for my clients who might be tracking right now and who are in that season. But then I know that season is very important for where they're at. I'm very big on health and optimization and eating low inflammatory foods. But then I also love to go out for a wine with my girlfriend and eat seed oils, And I am a walking contradiction. And I really just had to learn that was me. But it does make it hard when you are creating content and you do have such conflicting views, because people are probably like, well, you said this, but now you're saying this. And what I will say is, if you do ever stumble across my page, just take whatever lands for your season. I specialize in 4 phases. Number 1, healing your relationship with food and your body. Number 2, physique upgrade, whether that's like fat loss, muscle building, etc. Number 3, intuitive eating, food freedom, kind of more of that lifestyle phase. And then number 4, blood analysis, health protocols, health optimization. And so I'm kind of speaking to 4 different people, because that's all the 4 phases that I've been on my journey that have got me to where I am today. But again, this does make it very hard to create content. So then content has felt quite challenging for me. And that gets to be okay. And I haven't made it mean anything. And I've also not launched a lot of things this year. You know, back in the day, it was very easy to launch things because I was so centered around fat loss, and I probably had disordered eating patterns. And I do have an ick from the industry, and I did have quite a big ick for a while there because I see through a lot of things now, and I see how many coaches actually have disordered eating patterns themselves and are passing that on to their clients. And I see a lot of coaches out there just saying the same things over and over, and who are so focused on their body and passing that on to their clients, and then their clients don't have a life. And I'm like, I just felt overwhelmed with all the information, and I didn't want to be a part of that, but then I also didn't want to lose my voice. And so again, I've just kind of been in my head with that for a little while there. And so I have had to remove myself from consumption. I would say I've been very disconnected from the coaching world, which has been necessary. And, you know, this is called the reconnected woman. Sometimes we have to disconnect from things that are not serving us to reconnect to our higher self. And I think with what I'm talking about and being so contradicting, there's not really someone talking about everything that I'm talking about. There's a lot of people that talk about what I'm talking about, but it's not the exact same. And that can sometimes make it hard to kind of share my opinion and have my voice. And that's why I really wanted to do this podcast, because this is an avenue where I can kind of speak my truth and explain everything with a bit more depth, because I am a deep person and I don't like these fucking 10-second reels, and I don't like the fakeness of social media, and I can't just stand there and do this reel where I'm staging things, and I don't know, like, it just gives me the ick, and I can't do that. But then sometimes that really stalls my growth. But anyway, that's kind of a bit of a brain dump for how I've been feeling lately. I feel really good in my personal life. You know, I have a great marriage. I have great friendships. I really do love my life. But I would say just in terms of social media, like, that's what I have struggled with a little bit, with just this adjustment of realigning where I'm at. Like, internal world hasn't necessarily matched up with my external world just yet. And from your lens, you know, maybe it does seem that way. But for me, I'm like, I've just had to create that space for things to realign. And I do feel like I'm now out on the other end, or coming out the other end, you know, coming into my spring after being in winter. But I do know that there are a lot of people out there that are feeling this. And what I will say, one of the best things that you can do to get out of your funk is create space and allow yourself to be. I was talking to a friend about this, and we're like, because she was feeling the same. And we're like, we just need to have some more fucking fun. Like, it's not always that deep. It's not always this 20-step process. Sometimes it's just going and having a laugh. We're like, let's go go-karting. You know, I went to a winery the other day with my girlfriend, and we just cracked up the entire time. There was no deep and meaningful conversations. There was no like being serious. It was just being so silly and laughing. And that was like so good for my soul. And that actually brought up a lot for myself. Like, that brought that frequency higher, because when we're in this low frequency, we generally attract things at a similar vibrational frequency. And so often how to get out of our funk is to do things that raise that frequency. So maybe you just need to have more fun. But then other times, you know, you do need to sit down and really gain clarity on, well, why am I kind of feeling this way? Because a lot of people are filling voids, and they are not really understanding why this is happening and what it's trying to tell them. I was saying to you guys that I kind of like when this season happens, because it means that there's an up level going on. I've done this so many times to understand that sometimes we need to pull the bow and arrow back in order to launch forward. And so a lot of people, when they have these moments, they try to launch something new and create a new offer, or change this and change that and do this and do that. But you don't need more. Like, you don't need more through that time. And you also need to ask yourself, well, why is this happening? Is this an invitation to kind of look deeper and go, well, what do I want and how do I want things to look? And I'm telling you now, like, if this hadn't have happened, I wouldn't be up leveling with this podcast. And I think back to years ago when I had those really dark moments and I was in those funks, they created me to get to a place of being so sick and tired of my shit, where I'm like, enough's enough. Things need to change. That's what happened when I competed. I got so sick and tired of that feeling that I'm like, okay, I can't compete again. I need to put this in the past. And I'm so glad it happened, because look at where I am now. With my body, I had to get to that place of burnout and having all these severe issues going on in my body, that it then pushed me to then go down a new pathway of studying health optimization, blood analysis, health protocols, all of that, women's health. That wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gone through the horrible stuff with my body. If I didn't grow up with a poor relationship with food in my body and have the binge eating and all of that, then I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you today. And so I think there's always silver lining, and there's always an opportunity for you to kind of go, well, maybe this is happening for me to make a big decision, right? Like maybe you feeling the way that you're feeling in your job and feeling shitty is going to push you to demand more for yourself. Maybe you feeling that really low moment in your relationship is going to push you to leave the relationship and find something that's more aligned. But when we are not in alignment, our steering wheel, when you think about a steering wheel that's out of alignment, it's kind of pulling you in different directions and it feels hard, it feels like a lot of resistance. But when you get that wheel aligned, everything feels a lot smoother. So I think the last few months have been kind of my steering wheel feeling that way. And now I'm like feeling more aligned, and it's just through little tweaks. It's often just little tweaks in your life. And what I would do for yourself is just get curious. I'm so big on being able to create space to kind of understand what's going on. So go for those drives in silence. I love going for a drive in silence and just connecting to my thoughts and letting things come up, whether that is doing a bit of a journal session, a meditation. I don't really like meditating and stuff on my own. I struggle. I probably need to do it more, but it could be the drive. It could be going on a soul walk in nature where you're off your phone, you're not disconnected, you're reconnecting to your body, and you're like, hey, what's going on? And talk to yourself like a friend and someone you care about. I think where a lot of people go wrong is they're very shamey. So they're like, what the fuck's going on? Why are you feeling this way? You're just not doing anything, etc. Where for me, I've been really compassionate to myself through this time, being like, all right, just like allow yourself some space. Don't feel like you have to do. Just like watering other areas that matter, which is my one-on-one clients. Like, love my business, love what I do, but it's been more social media that I have struggled with a little bit. And all it's taught me through that time is like, okay, well, what's not aligned, and what do I want to talk about, and how do I want that to look? And I think as well, you don't have to have it all figured out. Sometimes it is just one step that then leads to another, that leads to another. And that's kind of how I'm viewing this. Even just like doing this podcast is then going to give me more content. And that's a step. And then maybe that's going to help me with thinking about other things. And so you've just got to take aligned action, but you've also got to create the space to kind of figure out what's going on, and just really think of your life in seasons and understand that flowers are not always in bloom. I often say this, and I've said it on the podcast a few times, but we've got this incredible tree at my backyard. I love it. It is my favorite tree ever. Right now it has no leaves on it. It looks dead, doesn't look great, not very vibrant. But that season is very necessary for that tree. And what happens every single year, the leaves come back and it seems even more bright and beautiful than ever. But guess what? It's not rushing its season. It's not like, what the fuck are you doing? Hurry up and bloom. Like, why are you feeling this way? It just runs its course. And then it's able to be vibrant and have its thing and not stress itself out. But a lot of people are trying to force their seasons. And, summer's not like, let's go to winter right now. It's like, no, like summer goes for this long. Then you're going to have spring. Then you're going to have autumn. And they just do what they're meant to do. And so I think that's really helped me in my life, is like understanding that, yeah, I'm not going to be in bloom all year round. And winter and those dark times and those times where things don't feel great are very, very necessary for you to rebuild, restructure, and get clear on that next level. Most people's next levels come from that discomfort, come from that place where they're not feeling them best, because it forces them to take radical action and to sit and think and connect. And so for yourself, if you are in a bit of a funk, like I said, create some space to think about what you want. Don't feel like you have to change everything at once, because you're probably already feeling overwhelmed. So often it is just a very small decision that then you can bunny hop to other decisions, and just be kind to yourself through that process. Do you need a bit more stillness through that time? Do you need a bit more love? Like for me, I've just needed a little bit more stillness and not grinding or hustling. And even though everything is still really successful on paper, I just haven't felt the need to constantly do and launch and force myself to do all this content when it hasn't felt aligned. I've just allowed myself to show up authentically how I would like to. And it's given me so much clarity on my next level and what I want that to look like. So yeah, just understand that these seasons are necessary. You're not alone in what you're experiencing, and be kind to yourself, talk to yourself like a friend, not an enemy. And just that small action does go a long way. But if anyone can relate to this, I'd really love to hear from you in my DMs. It means a lot when we can have those conversations. And yeah, I really love hearing from you. And if there's any podcast episodes you want in the future, please let me know, because I love to help you guys. But thank you for listening today, and we're very happy to be on the other side of that funk.